I mean, that sounds amazing to find your life partner and be able to spend the rest of their lives together. But I think there's a huge part of the story that we're missing. And that I almost missed, and I rewind to watch it, is they talk about being in World War II
Mm.
and how like there was a place where anyone could go get a blowjob because these were war times. People were dying and sex made you feel alive. So right there, I could see one set of generation as gays. Then we have the David and Michael generation. And then I was even comparing it to mine.
Want to listen to this episode ad-free? Head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/Ivory Tower Boiler Room, and get a free trial for the ITBR professor level. And you can actually watch this episode as a video episode as well. While you're at it, did you know that on Spotify, we now have a subscription service for $10 a month? You get access to all of our ad-free episodes plus any bonus episodes. So make sure that you rate, review, and follow the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. Make sure that you follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Ivory Tower Boiler Room. And follow Mary DePippi's show, True Crime in Academia, at True Crime in Academia. Thank you all for your support, and without further ado, here's today's episode.
Interrompemos esse podcast para perguntar: quem você quer ser?
Designer, engenheira, pedagoga,
administrador.
Quer saber? O Senac EAD é nota máxima no MEC. Tem cursos de diversas áreas, com conteúdo elaborado por especialistas do mercado e professores mestres e doutores. Ainda tem o Senac Carreiras, conectando estudantes a vagas de emprego em todo o país. Saiba mais em ead.senac.br/graduação.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. I'm so excited because today you all get to hear episode 10 of the Queer as Folk Rewatch podcast. So I'm joined with Triston Pullen, who is a director. He's trained as an actor. And we talk all things about episode 10 of Queer as Folk, which was called Queens of the Road. And episode 10 of Queer as Folk was really borrowing that idea from Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. So there's a lot of fun, like niche and kitschy type of humor in this episode of Queer as Folk. And also Triston is from Texas, journeys to New York City to train as an actor. So he has his own relationship to this Queer as Folk episode because it's all about journeying to Manhattan and trying to find yourself as a gay man. So can't wait for y'all to hear episode 10 of Queer as Folk, our Ivory Tower Boiler Room rewatch show. And then soon to come on the podcast is an exclusive interview with Lawrence Leamer, who wrote the novel. Well, actually, it's a nonfiction book. It's Capote's Women, a true story of love, betrayal, and a swan song for an era. So you might recognize Capote's Women if you've been watching the Hulu FX show, Capote versus the Swans. So I'm going to ask Lawrence a lot about why he was so interested in Truman Capote, what led him to look at this elite society of Fifth Avenue women, and why was Truman Capote so enigmatic? Like, why was he able to get all of these women to tell him their secrets? So Truman Capote was definitely a gossip, definitely a gay male gossiper. He knew how to spread drama, and I like to think of it as the way Andy Cohen is the producer of The Real Housewives. Truman Capote was an early Andy Cohen. Okay, so can't wait to release my interview with Lawrence Leamer about Truman Capote. That'll come out in about a week or 2 weeks. Then I have an episode with Alan Ellenzweig about Fellow Travelers. So I'm not sure if you saw Fellow Travelers, but if you haven't seen it, it's such an excellent show. I really love Matt Bomer and Jonathan Bailey's chemistry in it. And then I have a discussion with the Gay and Lesbian Review contributing writer, His name is Felice Picano. He wrote all about Greenwich Village and counterculture movements and the explosion of LGBTQ art, cinema, music. So that's all going to be exciting. That comes out next week. I want to congratulate friends of the Ivory Tower Boiler Room who've been on this podcast: Zachary Zane, Matt Baum, soon to be on our podcast, Amelia Pasanza, and someone who I'm going to get on our Queer as Folk show, Patrick E. Horrigan. Congratulations, they all have received nominations for the Lambda Literary Awards. So, that's an amazing organization that amplifies LGBTQ plus literature, something that I am deeply always trying to uplift and amplify as well, is LGBTQ plus literature, media, culture, all things LGBTQ plus pop culture. So without further ado, I can't wait for you all to listen to episode 10 of Queer as Folk with Triston Pullen. And I'll be back soon on the Ivory Tower Boiler Room to give you updates. And just remember, if you haven't yet, on Sunday, April 7th, this Sunday, we have our virtual book club where we are discussing Gregory Maguire's Wicked. So please start reading Wicked. If you've seen the Broadway musical Wicked, please feel free to bring that up during the discussion. To join the virtual book club, which is at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, go to ivorytowerboilerroom.com. You'll see an RSVP link in our events section, and I will make sure that you get the invitation to join the book club. Okay, bye everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Hi everyone, this is Dr. Andrew Rimby, and welcome back to ITBR Rewatches Queer as Folk, episode 10, with a very special guest of mine, a good friend of mine, someone who's been on the podcast before, Triston Pullen. Hi, Triston.
Hey.
So if you haven't heard Triston's episode with us on the ITBR, it was such a great discussion about theater, and you gave a lot of advice for those who are going into directing. So Triston, for everyone out there, if you're wondering, what all of his accolades are, he's a director, a playwright, an educator. I think it's a scenographer. Is that how you say it?
Yes, yes.
First, I was going to say a stenographer, but a
No, I'm
stenographer
not a
is very
stenographer.
different.
No, very different, very different.
So Triston graduated with his BFA in acting and a minor in scenic design, hence the scenography relates to scenic design. Graduated from the University of Memphis with an MFA in directing. And I got to know him from the Walt Whitman Initiative in New York City, and then our paths just intertwined. So it's wonderful to have your performing arts mind here with a TV show and all things soap opera and queer with Queer as Folk. So, hey, Triston.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here.
So you were even telling me before I hit record that it was so enjoyable to return to Queer as Folk. So how did the show 2000, 2001, now we're in 2001 with episode 10. How did it enter? Yeah.
Well, I'm an infant. So in 2001,
Okay.
I was all of 6 years old. So
Yeah.
I remember, I had gay uncles, and I was actually very blessed, if you want to say, as a young queer kid in the Bible Belt of Texas, that I had that representation in my life. And I think that's one reason why I never felt the need to come out. I just existed because all these people were just existing around me. But we had rules in our family that to this day I didn't quite understand. We could sit on a couch and watch L Word as a family, but I could not watch Queer as Folk or Brokeback Mountain. So when everyone was asleep, Army crawled into the living room and would watch it. I don't think I was watching it at 6 years old, but I definitely wasn't middle school. Definitely in middle school.
Wait, is that because of the taboo around two men being sexual together, you think?
You know, I don't know because there were gay male characters in the L Word.
Mm,
So I never quite understood it. Maybe it was that it just made my dad uncomfortable, which I mean, we could go into a deep dive thesis on like the male psyche, why it's okay for women to sleep together and not men, you know, like that whole
mm,
societal norm. But yeah, he was very much against it. And I remember like the first time I watched Brokeback, I was like, this is what you didn't want me to watch. Like this is like PG compared
yeah,
to most things. And
yeah.
Queer as Folk, I mean, it revolutionized the way I saw gay men and gay culture. Um, and it really taught me that there wasn't one form.
Mm,
Like, I think that, and not speaking from your experience, but like general experiences that we see like this Greek Adonis body type, and we all want to like fit this. And Queer as Folk was this beautiful thing where there was different body types, different people, and I just saw a community. Um, but yeah, and I mean it was taboo, so it kind of was like, you know, that very scarlet letter, let's run into the woods to sin, you know. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean it was probably like quintessential to my like
Mm,
teenage years for sure.
yeah. Wait, are you calling me a Greek Adonis, Tristan? No, just kidding.
Um,
I'm
just
not a Greek Adonis by any
no,
stretch of the
no, no,
imagination.
no. I might be
But
like Zeus when he's 50, but that's about it, you know.
oh no,
Yeah.
that's a he's a zaddy. What are you talking
Oh no,
about? I
he
like
isn't
a
that
I like a
deep.
50-year-old Zeus.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, well, since we're talking about Queer Eye and there's definitely sex, my mother, who I absolutely adore, she would probably kill me when I say this. She has named the era of my life as the sex god era. So I've been like on
Ooh,
this whole trip, and I don't even know what that means. So I think she thinks she knows what's happening in life, and she doesn't. Because
yeah, good for Miss Pullen. I like
yeah,
that.
no, for real, yeah.
Well, what I love about episode 10 is it's called aptly Queens of the Road. So I
Mhm.
feel like there's almost a Priscilla Queen of the Desert homage happening in the title. Um, but it came out February 18th, 2001 is when it premiered. And I think the writer is let's see. So oh, the writer was Doug Union, who I don't know his work, but I really love the writing in this one. And I thought it was so great that you came on for episode 10 because we have so many theater allusions and references that I didn't even realize until I was rewatching. And it was directed by John Le Acure. Very nice, I guess, French name here. It says Dr. David pressures Michael to move in with him. Brian's loft is burglarized. Justin runs away to New York City. Lindsay and Melanie begin to drift apart. So there's a lot happening in this episode, I thought. Um, but like what stuck out, we don't have to go in chronology, but what was something that maybe shocked you or intrigued you about this episode?
So when I was watching this, I kept having the notion and the argument of like moving in, when to move in, when to not. And I
Hmm.
was like, oh, Michael's being logical. Oh, Michael's being logical. And because that's something I battle with. So I was very much on that journey of
Mm,
like, when do you move in? When do you do this? And like, are we going to be the traditional like U-Haul lesbians? And then are we going to do like all these things? And so that's what really stuck to me. But then also when Justin is in New York City and he's in the hotel room and Brian busts in and he said, well, you know, New York's amazing. There's all these men, there's all this. I went clubbing till 6 a.m. It was just so relatable because when I moved to New York and lived there, I was in my 20s. I couldn't even go to a bar. And I remember all of the guys that I was working on Broadway with or off Broadway said, you need to go to the Eagle. You need to go to the Eagle. Come to the Eagle with us. And I remember walking to the door, saw the red light, freaked out, and just went back to my apartment. And it was very much the Justin thing is that I wanted to be there. I had all the intentions of living my big queer life, but it kind of scared me. And I just stayed there because who I really wanted or what I really wanted wasn't in those spaces, you
mm,
know? Um, so that really stood out to me. But I will say that I found myself laughing when someone said, oh, I can't remember the exact line, but someone was like, all right, thank you, Arthur Miller. And I was like, oh, that was so funny.
Yeah.
Like he's
Oh,
subtle.
Debbie says you're all my
Yeah,
sons.
you're all my sons. They're like, oh yeah,
Hmm.
thank you, Dr. Miller.
Yeah, I like jotted that down because I knew you would enjoy that
Yeah,
pun.
that and
Um,
the
yeah.
Barbra Streisand moment. I was like, who are they talking about? And then I it clicked. So yeah.
Yeah. We'll get to the road trip because I found the road trip to be like full of so many madcap.
Hmm.
Um, like that is the Priscilla Queen of the Desert. I felt that the writer was having so much fun with this storyline. But like going back to what you said in terms of the moving in storyline, because that's where our episode starts. And I agree with you. I feel that in a gay male relationship, the whole like moving in and not even moving in, but like taking it to this next level is such a push and pull. And I think there's a taboo. There's definitely a taboo when it comes to two men moving in compared to two women moving in. Like it's almost going back to you watching the L Word as a family, but not watching Queer as Folk.
Right.
That like in my opinion, I feel David is really in this fantasy realm in this episode. Like he keeps like talking to Michael at the beginning of the episode about like you're gonna come out of the shower and like we're going to make breakfast and it's like nothing they're spontaneously doing because like Michael's just having fun like shopping and they're walking the streets of Pittsburgh. They're going to the comic book store and David's like somewhere else. Like he's not with Michael in the moment. He's already on this moving in vision.
Yeah, well, I think it's that I'm fixing to call myself out here, but I think it's that we have that very heteronormative lens
Hmm.
placed on us, which I live there. Like I live in that very heteronormative white picket fence, blah 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 blah. But like also, I think I read this whole article the other day about how gay men, when they are dating, especially in their 20s and 30s, it's like they're in their teens because coming out was almost like a new puberty that they have to go through. So there's like a whole nother maturity level and all of these things. And that usually the love that we have in the very beginning is an immature love. And it's that rainbow fantasy, it's the let's move in, it's the magical, it's romanticizing everything, romanticizing eating breakfast, romanticizing like him saying me just waking up and looking in and seeing through the foggy mirror the man I love taking a shower. Like, all right, Whitman, calm down. But like, like it's so romanticized because he sees what those elderly men wanted in his life, you know.
Yeah. I mean, and it is like being in a relationship now. Um, there's nothing wrong with the romantic fantasy or the vision. I mean, right? It's beautiful cuddling. I love waking up and holding each other. Like that to me is very beautiful. I just feel from the get-go. And again, I think both David and Michael have um their wires are crossing. Like they're just not speaking the same love language here. Um, but it seems as if David is really setting up expectations that Michael's not going to adhere to. And like we'll see that eventually at the end of the episode. And I'm like, David, you're not even listening to Michael. Like Michael's trying, but he just didn't match your vision of this 50-year-old relationship couple who you introduce him to. Like this, I don't know, we have to talk about it. What did you think of the two men who are at this dinner party with Michael and David who've been in a relationship for 50 years? It feels like a
Well,
test.
I feel like it was a test, but also I think it was the dream. Because let's be real, like I don't know any gay men who've been married for 50 years.
Yeah.
Like that's what my grandparents did. I mean, that sounds amazing to find your life partner and be able to spend the rest of their lives together. But I think there's a huge part of the story that we're missing. And that I almost missed, and I rewind to watch it, is they talk about being in World War II
Mm.
and how like there was a place where anyone could go get a blowjob because these were war times. People were dying and sex made you feel alive. So right there, I could see one set of generation as gays. Then we have the David and Michael generation. And then I was even comparing it to mine, is where under different given circumstances, to use a play term, is that these men had to live and love under different circumstances. So if you survived war and now you're living in the era, you've already been, in the closet, you're hiding this love. You're probably just roommates and you've been putting up, you do this. And now Michael and David are being able to be out and open and doing all these things, where now where you and I are, no one even thinks twice about this stuff anymore, really,
Yeah, and we're not even Justin's generation.
Oh, I think
Like,
I am Justin's.
Wait, are you Justin's generation?
Yeah, I'm Justin's generation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wait, well, I'm just saying in terms of age. Like, you're not Justin's age at this time. Like, in 2001, Justin is 17.
Oh, no, yeah, no.
No, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah. So I think that, like, even there's a progression. And, I think that that's part of the storyline that I wish that they could have dived deeper into, is that, you and I have been talking about the show I told you to watch, Fellow Travelers, and there's this kind of similar theme here about one wanting that heteronormative life. I want you. I don't want to just fuck you or sleep in a bed. I want you. Yeah. And then, I see that here too. And I think it's just kind of, even in today's world, we still ask those same questions,
Yeah. Hi, this is Dr. Andrew Rimby, and when I'm not here on the podcast, I am consulting with small businesses, undergraduate students, graduate students, podcasters, and those in media. So if you're curious about the work that I've done with my consultation services, you could just type me in on Google, Ivory Tower Boiler Room, and you'll see a few reviews pop up. I've worked on college admission essays for undergraduate students. I've revamped and expanded a small business's social media marketing campaign right here in Port Jefferson, New York. And I've also worked on a graduate student's thesis for her physician assistant program. So if you want to seek me out or inquire about my consultation services, just email me. That's the easiest way to reach me, at ivorytowerboilerroom@gmail.com. That's easy to remember. And 'tis the season for college admission essays, both undergraduate and graduate, thesis writing, dissertation writing. Do you want to create a podcast and you don't know where to begin? Media work, how to open a TikTok, how to start creating videos on TikTok, what to do with your Instagram. All of that I have done. So just reach out to me. Hi, this is Andrew at the Soapbox NY, a bath and body boutique in Port Jefferson Village on Long Island. And I'm going to announce a really fun cross promotion that I'm doing with Janine, the co-owner of the Soapbox. So I'm holding here Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West by Gregory Maguire, who I had the pleasure of interviewing on the podcast. Listen back to that episode. I'm hosting an ITBR book club. We're chatting all about Wicked. So join me on April 7th at 4 p.m. It's virtual, and you can be in your pajamas and be nice and cozy. And it's $4 to join. Go to @Ivory Tower Boiler Room and click the link in our bio to RSVP. So with Janine, I said, Janine, can you find a Team Glinda and a Team Alpha Bath and Body product? She found them. So I'm definitely Team Alphaba. She's Team Glinda, unfortunately, or fortunately, because we want you all in the comments to say which team you're on.
Hi there, I'm definitely Team Glinda, and the pink product I chose to show you is by Farmhouse Fresh, and it is their Watermelon Aid Silky Gelée Serum. It is a wrinkled out gelée serum that consists of watermelon and CBD. It's vegan, it is animal cruelty free, and it's amazing. It's hyaluronic, and it helps to soften out any little fine lines that you might have around your face. Put it on right before your moisturizer, and it's amazing. And I think it's a lot better than my rival's product.
I don't know. Team Alphaba's product
is by Finchberry. It is, of course, called Emerald, with a beautiful citrus and violet scent. I have to show you the bar. Look at all of these shades of emerald. I think the Emerald City citizens would definitely use this in their shower. And the wizard, oh, well, he would be putting this gold everywhere. So, I love Finchberry. They're a vegan-friendly and paraben-free company. So, I don't know. Are you Team Glinda with the watermelonade? Or are you Team Alphaba with the emerald soap? So, are you Team Alphaba with Finchberry? Or are you Team Glinda with Farmhouse Fresh's watermelonade? Did you hear that? I just heard a cyclone. And look what we have. Looks like we found the Wicked Witch of the East ruby red slippers. You can also get these beautiful Snoozies slippers at the Soapbox NY before Dorothy steals them, because she's a pesky little girl. Okay, let us know which team you're on.
So you've heard me gush about my friend Mandy Bengal's business called Mandy Made It. It is a cricket and crochet company. And as she says, especially for the kids at heart, which I think actually comes from Wizard of Oz. So I know that Mandy has made such beautiful items for Mary DePippi, for myself. I have a Hocus Pocus bed and breakfast sign that says Sanderson Bed and Breakfast in my living room. She's also made the poison apple from Snow White for me as a crocheted item. Recently, I gifted my boyfriend a crocheted ghost face bouquet that is just so gothically, hauntingly beautiful. She, I'm sure, can make you bunny rabbits, flowers, anything that you want for the spring season. She's making Pokemon items right now. So make sure you follow her at Mandy Made It, Mandee Made It. And you'll see an example of all of the different items that she's been crafting right now. And because our Wicked Book Club is on April 7th at 4 p.m., I definitely know that she could make an Alphaba and Glinda item for you. So I'm going to actually reach out to her because I'd love to have my hands on an Alphaba or Wicked Wizard of Oz Wicked collab item from Mandy Made It. And make sure you mention ITBR because she will gift you with a small free gift with your first order from Mandy Made It. Enjoy your crafts. Well, I was going to say, wait, Triston, how old are you again?
I'm 27. I turned 28, I think.
Oh, you're 27. Okay, so yeah, that's right. You're younger than me. Okay, I'm 31.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm just trying to place in our mind. Justin, I was his age in 2010. Yeah, 2010. I was 17. So, if I think I'm doing my math correctly. So I'm like 10 years separated from Justin during the series. With age. So like we're talking about someone who's 41 would be Justin's age now.
And I will tell you, ironically enough, my ex is 41. And I could tell the differences in the gay life he had to live, in the gay life, the privileges I have as a gay man, because how they approach love, how they approach intimacy, how they approach public display of affection is so different.
Yeah, and they had to face more ridicule, or even just not even ridicule, but like they had to even face the questioning glances. Like I mean, we've faced that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, regionally, I think you faced it differently than I faced it in the Northeast. But like when I'm with my boyfriend, like in terms of public affection, I'm not like, yeah, once in a while I'll question it, but like my whole approach is, if you don't like it, like turn your head. I don't care. Where I think in their 40s, they might be censoring themselves more with the public affection.
Because like I would go like in my hometown, staunch Northeast Texas Bible Belt, I would like probably hold my partner's, no, I have held my partner's hand. I don't know that I would kiss them there just because I know what everyone's opinions there. It's Trump Nation, you know? But like my ex, who was 41, would not even hold my hand in public, which I thought was insane.
Wow.
Or like, you know, he was very affectionate, but like not in front of people. It was like we were business partners. And I was like, what the hell is this? you know? And I was like, no, this is not for me, you know?
Was that a symptom of what led to the downfall of this relationship?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Mm,
won't put him on complete blast in the
no.
podcast, you know.
Yeah, don't say his name.
Oh no, I wouldn't. We'll have drinks in New York over it.
We'll talk about it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have my mocktail. You have your
Yes,
vodka. I don't even know if
yes,
you drink vodka.
yes. No,
But
more tequila, but yeah.
okay, okay.
But I do think that there is a generation difference. But one thing within this storyline, within this
Mhm.
episode, is you were saying I think that they're not on the same path. My biggest problem with Michael is I think he's an anti-hero more than Brian because he's romanticized and he wants everyone, but he won't speak up the fact that he wants Brian. And
Mm,
like that whole kiss on the road trip, he knew damn well what that was. Knew damn
mm,
well. You could have what you want in David, but as gay men, I feel like, and I'm just as guilty, is that sometimes we don't want what wants us. We want the thing that doesn't because we appreciate the chase.
mm.
Because we live
Well,
there.
yeah, um that's also a stereotype of manhood or
Oh yeah.
masculinity is the
Uh,
chase,
yeah.
right? I mean, women chase too, but I feel like the like maybe extra testosterone of two men together is like that visual erotic aspect. Even I'm thinking of when, and I know everyone out there, we're jumping in chronology, but you've all hopefully watched this episode. So we're just seeing where Tristan, our paths are crossing here. But I really love though when Brian comes to the hotel room with Justin because this is where I think Gail Harold and Randy Harrison's chemistry as acting partners is just one of the best I've ever seen in a romantic storyline. Is how you know Brian is so angry that he had to go to New York City first and had to be inconvenienced after a burglary happened. And then now he also has all these charges on his credit card. But when he sees Justin's face, like he wants to be so pissed, but then Justin lures him with seductiveness and that like visual arousal, just he can't control himself. Like you can tell that they're going to be together in a relationship. Like the universe is just pulling them together.
Yeah. Well, and then, like Brian's definitely the avoidant and Justin
Mhm.
is the anxious. But Brian also, when he gets anxious about something through the entire series,
Yeah.
from episode 1 to however many they ran, is
Mhm.
that when something goes wrong and he's mad about it, sad about it, or worried, he flies off the handles. He's fucking someone, he's blaming someone, and he's never the problem. So I think that he was worried about Justin
Yeah.
from the beginning. But I also think that Brian has this like daddy issue within himself of wanting to be someone's daddy, you know?
Mhm.
Because he like fathers all of his friends, tells him what to do. It's a very like dominant-esque moment. That's why, like in the series, this isn't in this episode, and I can't remember what episode it is, but and correct me if I'm wrong if you remember this, but doesn't like Justin one night fuck him? And it finally switches, and I was like, oh, it was like a
Yeah. Oh,
whole
I think that's after um where the season is leading at the end of season 1, where there's a traumatic event with Justin.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think that's where like you're saying their sexual chemistry
yeah.
shifts.
Yep.
Because Justin has to be rehabilitated sexually
Right.
through um uh intimacy and moving past his trauma with Brian. And Brian, like, yeah. So like that's a teaser for everyone out there, but things
And I
really,
would
like
say
Tristan's saying, does shift.
you said the
Mhm.
word intimacy. I'm very curious how they directed these scenes because now in today's world we have intimacy choreographers, but
Mm.
they did not exist back then when this was being filmed. And this show is sex on sex on sex on sex. So like how to even approach some of this stuff, I wonder how these actors like that's the questions I would ask them is like how do you approach the sex? Now
Yeah.
that
Well, and then how about Melanie and Lindsay? I thought that chemistry is also well, we had a lot of sexual sex scenes. We had, right? We had Melanie and Lindsay, we had Brian and Justin, and we had Michael and David's fantasy.
Yeah, and Melanie and
Yeah, well, yeah. What do you think about Melanie and Lindsay? What's
every
going
time
on?
I just every time they go to have sex, this sounds gonna sound horrible, but it just always sounds so wet. Like even when they kiss, like I can't even stand the sounds of it. I'm like, okay, all right, sounds great. But I also just feel like that chemistry between the two of them, I they are my least favorite characters in this whole series, and they remain that way.
Oh,
Is I never
interesting.
connect to them. They always seem to be the opposition. And
Mm,
their through line for me is I feel like they were added into the show for a purpose, and I understand why, but I feel
mhm,
like they are like the male gaze takes over and they're just like they're like Ophelia in Hamlet. Like they're over here.
mm,
And I never
mm,
feel like they get their prime time. They get like moments, but we focus on everyone else except them, but we're supposed to also love them, you know?
mm. I mean, I love um the acting between like I love the actresses
Hmm.
like Taya Gill, who's Lindsay, um, and Michelle Clooney, who's Melanie. First, I think they're both just stunning. But
Oh, God, gorgeous.
beyond that, and I'm not just saying that because Michelle follows us on Instagram, who plays Melanie, but I think that the Gus issue with the child, it kind of plays into what you've been saying about Brian wanting to be a father, but he's really not there unless he wants to come to the house. But why won't he let Melanie be the guardian and give away his
Yeah.
legal rights? Like that always rewatching so frustrates me because Melanie wants to just be a legal parent. I feel like in this episode, Lindsay is um she's really not respecting her partner's wishes. Like she's not there for Melanie. I don't know. I felt for Melanie in this whole episode. I think that Lindsay is being really obstinate.
See,
Um,
and I think out of the two, I once had a friend say the reason I don't like Lindsay is because I am Lindsay.
mm,
And so I'm having to like see mirror, you know?
mhm,
Um, because her whole moment with Justin, when she was like, I can tell you the one thing that you are missing, and she writes Justin, I was like, yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. All this other shit, you've got the money, Brian. You can replace all of it. You can't replace him. And whether
mhm,
you're not going to be with him or whatever. Um, I just, yeah, but even in this scene, like, it also goes back to that heteronormative because they're having dinner. Melanie's having dinner with, oh, what's his character's name? Oh,
David.
no,
No.
the accountant.
Oh. The in the montage scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ted.
And he's like, I always wanted to be a cook, be the wife and cook. And she's like, well, and I always wanted to be or me too. And he's like, now you're the husband. It was still playing these gender norms that, and gender roles that we don't even as like gay men talk about anymore. Like we don't say, oh, you're the man, you're the woman, you're the this or the that. Like, um, so it's also interested to watch it now from my viewpoint and see what's dated,
Mm.
you know?
That's true. I mean, the whole if you're the top, you're more of the husband. If you're the bottom, you're the wife. Yeah, I feel like you're right. We've kind of gone past those sexual roles define your gendered behavior because we know that that's bullshit. But also, we all have feminine, masculine traits within us, in my opinion.
Oh no, I agree
Um,
because this was like my map of being a gay man. And I remember thinking, okay, well, you're really feminine and like you tap into that energy, but like you're a top. So like, how does this work? And like, it took some navigating and just owning it. But I think that those set roles in this is very different than like the
mm,
world we live in today.
yeah. Well, and I agree with you. I feel that if anything's dated in the show, it's definitely how sexual positions define the personality of the male character. Because, like, I think we're all led to believe Justin is a bottom. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think he's a top in this episode. And that the more dominant man in his career is going to be the top. Um, which is not how the bedroom plays out.
No,
You know,
not at all.
there
Not
are a lot. There are a lot of versatile guys. I mean, it runs a spectrum, and that's the same thing with women too. Yeah,
well,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I think that is it. And also like now you may have to completely correct me, but I had never been to a gay bar ever until this summer. I am 27 years old and went to my first gay club because I always thought it was going to be like Babylon. And I was terrified and I felt like I don't do well being objectified anyway. So I'm like, just please don't even look at me. I'm not here. Let me just like hide in a corner. So, and then I went to like one of the biggest ones in Dallas and I was like, this isn't, this is nothing like what I thought it was going to be. Like, I don't feel so uncomfortable. But
yeah,
also, but my friend TK, who I went to grad school with, and he was like, but you got to realize the year in which this was made. And they were
yes.
like this. This was heightened. He said you went from, the 1950s where you were cruising in public bathrooms to having a safe space to go in and just fuck who you wanted in a treehouse or in a back room or this and that and that. And you didn't need to know who they were, you know?
Mm. Well, I feel like Babylon is making up for lost time. Yeah, like what your friend was suggesting. I mean, the only place in recent time that like reminds me of a Babylon is maybe um like events I've been to on Fire Island.
Yeah.
Maybe like tea, like the tea event in the Pines. But even that, people are very um there's a little boundary up. Like not everyone is like there isn't that touchy-feely behavior because we have consent culture now. So,
Right. Right.
I don't think it's ever going to be, and that's a good thing. Like I don't know if we should all be um making people uncomfortable
Right.
without
Right.
them agreeing to be
Right.
touched. But yeah, I've been to the Eagle. That was at least 6 years ago, with an ex. And that was enjoyable, but there was like a crowd of men who would just stand on the
Perimeter.
periphery
Yeah.
and the perimeter and would just like um hope
Watch.
that some sexual act would happen so they could maybe join in. I don't know. That was a little interesting.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Eagle also I enjoyed though. There is a lot of non-judgment happening now with gay bars. There's the Ritz. I really like that one in Hell's Kitchen. That was like right after the pandemic when they like lifted the restrictions. I went there and it was like all dancing and I think people were just happy to like enjoy
Yeah.
each other's company. So it kind of was like Babylon. But yeah, I mean Babylon is a fantasy realm.
Well,
And
it's
it's
the wood.
interesting. Yeah.
It's the woods to literature. It's where you go to sin. It's the darkness. You go like it's
Yeah.
their greatest place of liberation, you know? So why wouldn't
Exactly.
they just like throw down?
Exactly. So something I wanted to ask you is what did you think of um what happens when we get Justin like touring Daphne around Brian's apartment? Like, do you think that Justin is provoking Brian or like is just so naive that he's excited to show off this beautiful penthouse place?
I just think, I mean, I keep thinking of what it would be like to me. Like when I moved into my apartment, I was FaceTiming everyone. You just do that. But
Mhm.
also to be in a house, in a penthouse at that age, to be with this sex god Brian
Yeah.
and to be in his house, and then lo and behold, this little girl gets to see the god himself butt ass naked. I mean, I would do a praise dance in the kitchen, like it's not I just think we have to remember maturity level and
Mhm.
what we appreciate at Justin's age. The materialistic things. Look, a gay man can have nice things. He can do this. He can have this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm living here instead of understanding of like actually the real worth and prize is standing in your worth and knowing who you are. And like,
Yeah.
I think Brian lives there. I mean, like Brian's ego is, gigantic.
Yeah, yeah. He has BDE ego.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Big dick ego.
yeah.
And as we're talking, I'm actually drinking a green smoothie. And I thought one of the funniest moments to me is when he says, can you make me a creatine soy shake? And they're like, no. And I'm thinking, how hard is it to make a shake? Like, you just get a little powder. Like, I don't.
But that also goes to show that Justin hasn't really been in the gay culture very long, is that he
Yeah.
doesn't understand. I mean, like, I think all of us could whip up a spinach, strawberry, and fiber smoothie real quick, you know?
Yeah.
You know, like it's nothing. But, you know, I think when you're that young, they're like, oh, I can do the guava juice, you know? But even Justin didn't even know what guava juice was because he comes from a nuclear family who probably only ever had orange juice. You know, like it just also that's what I love about this show is it's constantly showing us gay culture versus straight culture, but also young and old
Mm.
and all of these things. Like even when Michael's mom gets so excited that David has told him to move in, and his uncle is like, well, I remember when I was with my ex, it took us 6 months to move in and 2 weeks for me to find out that he had been sleeping with blah, 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 blah. You know, it's like the bitter gay, bitter old gay, the midlife gay, and then the fag hag mom who was like, gay love, gay love, gay love, gay love. You know, like it's like
Oh, she's so good with her comic relief. Oh
she's
my
my
God.
favorite
Yeah,
character.
Sharon Glass is just incredible in
She's
this.
iconic.
But like I wrote some quotes here. Um, when Justin, I love when he says the line to his mom at his sister's birthday party. He says it can't be the way it was. I thought that was a breakthrough moment. But
Mhm.
then Jennifer, his mom, says, I have to consider the needs of this family. Are you a fan of LGBTQ plus books, plays, movies, TV shows? Well, then I have the magazine for you. It's called the Gay and Lesbian Review. The GNLR is a bi-monthly magazine of history, culture, and politics that publishes essays in a wide range of disciplines, as well as a slew of reviews of books, plays, and movies. Each issue brings you consistently intelligent, lively, thought-provoking articles focused on a unifying theme, and it brings together the leading minds on the topic. So I just had on Dr. Richard Schneider Jr., the founder and editor-in-chief of the GNLR. For the GNLR's 30th anniversary, happy birthday, GNLR, Dr. Richard Schneider talked about their special volume called Outer Appearances, More Faces from the Annals of the GNLR, illustrations by Charles Heffling. They cover current LGBTQ artists such as Harvey Fierstein, Melissa Etheridge, Alan Cumming, James Whiteside, Alison Bechdel, and even David Sedaris, and of course, many others like Stephen Sondheim. There's even a supplemental issue that comes with your commemorative volume. And Andrew Halloran, the writer of Dancer from the Dance, he reviews a book called Morris about E.M. Forster's Morris, written by one of our ITBR guests, David Grevin. So we can't wait for you all to experience this beautiful 30th anniversary GNLR issue. Have you heard some of my GNLR interviews, including Dr. Andrew Lear's discussion about male-male love in ancient Greek society and Ignacio Darnad opening and blasting the closet door in the queer male art world? Well, definitely make sure you listen to them after this episode. Head to glreview.org. Make sure you subscribe to their magazine. You'll see there's a section that says subscribe at the top. Enter the promo code ITBR50. That's ITBR50 to receive 50% off. 50% off any print or digital subscription. Enjoy your reading. Hi, this is Dr. Andrew Rimby, and I'm really excited to talk to you all about one of our ITBR sponsors, Broadview Press. Broadview Press is an independent academic publisher in the humanities that produces high-quality, pedagogically useful books for use in university and college classrooms. They publish mainly in English studies, writing, philosophy, and history. They are always publishing with an eye towards diversity, building a strong list of titles from women, people of color, and authors from other marginalized groups. If you haven't heard my Broadview Press interviews, you need to. Recently, I just had on Dr. Shannon Day, who talked about her book, Beyond the Binary, Thinking About Sex and Gender. And in the summer, I had on Dr. Jason Holt, who gave us all a comprehensive history of what it means to be a philosopher who studies sporting culture. And of course, we went back to ancient Greek literature, mythology, history to look at the roots of athleticism. And last year, I had on Dr. Jeffrey Andrew Weinstock, who's actually going to be coming on the podcast soon to give his thoughts on the new Fall of the House of Usher Netflix series. He talked all about pop culture for beginners. And Broadview Press is offering an exclusive discount because of our sponsorship. So head to broadviewpress.com where you're going to see such a wide range of literature. Use the code Ivory Tower, IVORYTOWER for 20% off site-wide all of their books. Again, it's broadviewpress.com. Enjoy your reading.
Well, and I struggle so much. I'm teaching the youth now. And sometimes these little baby children come to me and they tell me things, and it's really hard for me to connect with them because I didn't have this story. So I come from a place of empathy, but also safety at their age, but also I'm like, what does this mom do? Honestly, I don't know that we ever know if she works, if she has a job.
I think she's a real estate agent.
Okay, so she's a real estate agent. So she bringing in some money, But like, do you uphold your whole life? Because, in this culture, your kid being gay and running off with an older man of all things, I think also, like, I feel for the mom. The older I get, I feel for the mom because clearly she misses her child so much.
Yeah.
And I really think he's her favorite.
Yeah. Well, and I think she knows that if she fully supports Justin, it means that she's going to have to divorce her husband and then start her life on her own. And she doesn't want to face
some
that.
way.
She's losing someone.
Yeah. And that's what again, the beauty of these shows is it shows it's not just this surface level. The shit is complex. And it's deep, and
no, this series it hits so many every time I watch an episode, right? The campiness also cuts through into reality. Like the campiness is necessary to get to the emotional depth. And there's a lot of depth in the series. And it's like rewatching this, when I watch now new TV shows, I feel like we're lacking the mix of humor and emotional depth. Like there's a way to do it. Like why I loved Modern Family. I thought that was great. I love Abbott Elementary. I'm not sure if you've seen that. I think that's so good. But yeah, some of these new series are a snooze fest in my opinion. But like I started to watch the new season of The Gilded Age, and I love The Gilded Age, the first season, but I'm like just falling. I'm a huge fan of Edith Wharton and all things that time period, but I don't know. It's not hitting a stride yet.
I talked to Christian about Smash, and we talked about how season 2 does that. You're so in it in season 1, and then season 2, the first episode, you go, what the fuck is this? Like, it's like, what did you do? Like, you had something going for you, and you just switched it up. But I think there is a delicate balance, because, like, I have a friend, she's obsessed with The Office, and I would rather have a hot poke stuck in my eye than watch that. Like, I can't. Like, because it's that low, cheap comedy.
Lowbrow, yeah. It's zany.
Lowbrow. But then, like, Queer as Folk has some of the queerest, gayest, cheesiest humor, but it just works because they hit you with that, and then Ted's in a coma. Like, it's like boom, boom, boom. Like, it roots you. It allows you to experience the trauma and be triggered, but then it immediately pulls you out with humor. And I think that's what good art does. It can trigger you, but I think it also should alleviate you. And if it doesn't, there's a reason. But I think with TV shows, for it to be sustainable, it has to do that. And this show is like a Tour de France. It's like,
kind of like The White Lotus. I feel like The White Lotus hit that balance.
Yeah.
Right? Like even Jennifer Coolidge's death, in season 2. Like the way she dies
Insane.
almost makes you laugh because you're like, of course she would. Of course, this character would think that she could get off the boat this way.
Yeah. I
And
think, and I think that that's, how the beauty of this show is how it was written. The people who wrote this is
Mhm.
hands down.
Yeah, and Sex and the City did this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Desperate Housewives, another one that I want to rewatch eventually. I think Desperate Housewives had so many interesting moments. But yeah, okay. So the montage, I had to ask you because I thought they did an excellent job with this back and forth where it was like David and Michael's storyline with them, with the couple who's been together for 50 years. Then you have Gus, Lindsay, and Brian, and then you have Melanie.
And Ted.
And Ted, yeah, yeah. I loved how it was just like all these interwoven stories happening at the same time. Um, yeah, so like which dynamic did you find intriguing? Like, um, do you think that that worked just
Oh, I
as a
think it.
cinematography technique?
I think it worked. I think it was very successful, and I think it shows us which ones we were supposed to be focusing on the more, because it was showing us the, the whole, I call it the Hecate syndrome, where we're seeing the maiden mother crone, where we're
Mm,
seeing young love Justin,
yeah.
and maybe that's even Michael and Daniel. David.
Mm,
But like, I think the focus in that scene is the crone, the two older gay men, and then you have Melanie, and then you
mm,
have, you know, Justin and Brian. You have three different full-on oppositions and stories happening, and David and Michael are the witnesses.
oh,
So it's almost like, for me, when I'm watching it, this is what these elderly couples are saying, but then also at the same time, Michael is very much, well, then this is it. Let's talk about
mm,
Melody and Ted. That's where his head's going. Because I feel like sometimes he's being logical, but then I also have to remind myself again that Michael's really into Brian. And that's why, like, mystery chick was like, your soulmate is Brian. And he was like, how do you know that? And I'm like, all right, cut it. Season 14. There we go. This is how this all ends. Move on.
oh, the mysterious Marilyn.
Yes. And
Okay,
she
we
was
have
like,
to
your
talk about that was
soulmate.
my favorite moment in this episode, the psychic drag queen. And it's like it was almost as if you plucked this character, um, like the teller, American Horror Story character. Like it could have been in Ryan Murphy's
Oh,
production. It
yeah.
was she was way ahead of her time in this
Well, it's
series.
very Greek Deus Ex Machina.
Yes.
Like, let's step in, tell them exactly how this is all going to go down. And let's actually, in season 1, episode 10, tell us exactly how this series is going to end.
But I
It's
love
just,
what she said, and you should check your air tires.
yeah.
Like, but no, what was it? She said, oh, God just writes the script to Daphne. And Daphne's look of confusion was the best. That comic relief I thought was so good. Um, but yeah, how about the New York City? I thought you were gonna relate to this moment, which was the traveling to New York, like that spectacle of I'm gonna go to the big city, and Justin says, and I'm gonna become a go-go boy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because, New York City has this sparkling little marquee around it. And then you get there and you're like, wait, what? Because like that was very much, and you and I've talked about this. This was very much my journey. I'm gonna work on Broadway, and I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do it, da da da. And then I touched it, and I was like, maybe not, And I think that when you're already at rock bottom, every option looks good. And I think for Justin, he kind of goes into survival mode. How am I going to take care of myself? Well, he knows he's hot. He knows that men want him. So then go be a go-go dancer. He knows that he can be objectified and make money, so do it. But I also think because he still has his innocence, that he can't let himself.
Yeah. Well, and like you see on social media, like I'm in New York City a lot, but I feel that um there's a groundedness approach you have. I mean, you know, um friend of the show, but also your mentor and friend Christina Duarte. Like I've had these conversations with her too, that it's all about how you approach navigating the city is like you bring that intentionality and in a way manifest your
Yeah.
ambitions, but also there is a frenzied nature if you fall into it. Like,
Yeah.
but if you just like seek your community and have a like detailed plan and you like go with the flow of whatever the city brings your way, but that's not what Justin, is
No.
wants to like be uh almost like that claw in an arcade, just wants to be like taken
Yeah.
a la Toy Story and like be thrown all around with the aliens in the claw machine.
Well, and like I also think Christine and I've also talked about this is that like I feel like to live in New York City, you have to be a masochist because like it's a beat down. And I don't think that that's Justin. I think Justin lived in suburbia too long. Is that the right word to use? Suburbia? I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
So, and like he's come from this privileged. I don't think
Mhm.
he could have made it. Like I think of Justin running to New York City and then think of the storylines we saw in like the TV show Pose, and Justin
Yep.
could have never,
Mm-mm.
never done it. He was too pretty, too privileged, and too soft to
Yeah.
make it.
Well, and you're right. Like what you know, even like here, I'm 50 miles from Manhattan. And then, like, when I grew up in South Jersey, I was 2 hours from the city, but I was right by Philly. And I think that in suburbia, in like a comfort bubble zone, um, right, like some people really want to challenge themselves and have like be in the city environment. But then others, once there's an obstacle that comes their way, whether it be like I'm even going to take the subway and I get lost a little, that like really um freaks them out and they don't know how to handle that obstacle.
Oh
But you
yeah.
have to get lost. Like you have to get lost in the city. Like that's part of the journey of finding yourself. And yeah, not everyone is always going to be friendly, but that's in any new
Yeah.
challenging environment.
Well, my biggest challenge when I lived in New York is I was terrified of the subway. Couldn't.
Mm,
And I was meeting, I had a dear friend, Elena Warren Zachary, who was a Broadway vet, and she had a friend that lived in Soho, and I was living in Chelsea. And I knew I needed to get on the subway down there, terrified. And sitting
yeah.
at a diner with this woman, she said, "You're going to get on this subway and you're going to go here and you're going to walk home. You need to get lost." And I did. She took me all the way up to north of Central Park, and I walked back to 8th and 28th. And I thought my feet were going to fall off my whole body. But I also got to see a New York that I would have never seen.
Mhm.
And some of my favorite places I discovered was on that walk that I still go to this day. So I think that like also with this whole journey, this Priscilla Queen of the Desert vibe is it's about the journey of getting lost and figuring out what home is, but also what you want and who you are. And Justin finds that, but I think also Brian finds it.
Mm. So
And
you're saying this is like our Wizard of Oz, there's no place like home episode in a way.
well, yeah, I mean, we have the fortune teller,
Hmm.
we have Tweedledee, Tweedledum, and like the Scarecrow and the Tin Man and who's the other one, the Lion,
Yeah.
all in the car with Brian, who's Dorothy, trying to
Mm.
get to, you know, the Wizard of
Emerald
Oz.
City's New York
Yeah,
City.
it
Hmm.
is very, very, and then they even name drop, Barbara Streisand, who would have been like the title song of their time. It wouldn't have been Judy Garland. So,
Yeah.
like it's all lined up that this is almost a collection of a story. And
Mm.
like, think about it. He goes home. He doesn't get to come home. They don't
Yeah.
accept him. The storm comes, the burglary. Like, it's kind of like
Mm.
tit for tat.
Oh, like the burglary is the tornado in a way.
Yeah. Because it's
Ah,
like
I
you
love
get
this.
gone, everything's destroyed. Here you go. We're sending you off.
Mm. Yeah. Well, and I also love that in 20 minutes they went through anti-gay legislation, big dick stories, and then they're gonna sing people, and then that's when Brian puts the kibosh on everything.
Well, you think that that's unrealistic, but I think
No, it's true. It's true.
you could fly through that, especially with a gaggle.
Yeah. Well, there's only so many big dick stories people have. Um,
Andrew?
I don't. I mean, Like, I mean, I'm content with my big dick stories. Let's just put it that way.
I'm a
Like,
collector of stories, so there's that.
yeah, I mean, I definitely have some stories, but they're ones I'm not going to air on the podcast. Okay.
That's sweet.
So let's just say all is going well. I've had a good life. But any size, it's really about what do
Emotion of
they
the
say?
ocean.
Emotion of the ocean. Thank you.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
okay. So our final theme is one that I like. We return to David and Michael. So we begin with David and Michael, we return to them. And kind of like you said, there are frame narrative in this episode. What did you think of David when Michael leaves after Michael asks if he can still be David's boyfriend, even if they're not moving in together? And David said, "No, I don't want a boyfriend. I want a partner." And then longingly looks away as Michael like exits stage left. And then he envisions that they're in the shower together and answers his own fantasy about them in the shower.
You know, I can romanticize hell. Like I can make it sound like a wonderful place, but it's just like, and I get it. I mean, because I think all of us do at like an essence want a partner who shows up that goes on this beautiful thing called life and witnesses the journey. But I also think like how long have they been talking? 3 weeks?
No, a little more. I think is it 3 weeks? Yeah, maybe it's like in a month time span.
Yeah. Like it's not even
Not
like
long.
I would not even consider moving in with someone in a month. You don't know them.
No. I've said to my boyfriend, I'll consider it like in a year.
Yeah. Or 6 months.
6 months.
I might
6
consider it
months.
in 6 months, but I'll tell you with my ex, at 6 months, I was going for it. At month eighth, I was not,
Yeah.
So you need this time to process because here's the thing is we bring our best selves forward.
Mm.
And I don't know, I mean, no spoilers. I don't know that David could actually deal with Michael because I think Michael's obsession with Brian clouds everything. He will always be Team Brian, no matter if he was married. And if Brian wanted to throw him on the island of Brian's penthouse and screw him until the sun came up, Michael would say, "Thank you." You
Wow.
know?
It's the truth though.
I mean, but like,
Yeah. Well, and something that I value is well, what I disagree with, even though I agree with your assessment of Michael and that he would like drop on his knees for anything Brian asks him to do. He's a very obedient puppy. Is that David I disagree with David in like making this distinction between a boyfriend and a partner because in my opinion, like your boyfriend, like it should be someone that you're building and amplifying and growing together and evolving and trying to support each other, which to me is what a partner is. But all
no,
of the nuances, yeah.
I agree with you, but you have to also think about their characters' timelines too in this story is that they become like mother and father at one point. And I think that like the problem here is that in gay culture, we try to skip steps because we think we're not man and wife and we can skip it. And I think that that's what David's doing is David's just like, well, we don't have to do this and this and this. Let's just go here. And I think also like another thing is David is much older than Michael. So there's a clock aspect. Like I have friends who are in their late 40s and 50s and they're like, "Oh, my time's almost up." And I'm like, "You dying in a year?" Like that's insane to me. And they're like, "Well, you don't get it. You're 27. You have all this time." But like also like so do you. So I feel like sometimes when people get older, and definitely I've seen that the older you get, the faster that timeline goes. It's like you don't have time to bullshit, maybe, if that's the word. But I think that he knows that this is too soon.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like we're non-traditional with my boyfriend is like, I mean, I live by myself in a one-bedroom place. I'm not gonna throw my address out there, but people can find where I am. But like he'll stay over and like spend the night and like I work virtually, he works virtually, so like I'll spend the time at his place in Jersey. So we do have like a back and forth and I like that travel. I like that adventure and
Well, the
like
anticipation.
and the anticipation. And I kind of like I've said, and we agree, like there is something to distance makes the heart grow fonder, or like just having those, I would love eventually, I want to move in with the person that I love. I hope it's with my boyfriend. But I feel like it makes sense how you're seeing David. The way he's rushing into it is to try to check off everything on his bucket
Yeah.
list.
And I just also think that, like, there is something to be said about the distance. And I think that their partnership would actually be stronger if they did not move in and that they took some time. Because, like, if you have someone up your ass, you're not growing together. You're just cohabitating. Is that the right way to say that?
Cohabitating. Yeah.
Yeah. In the same space that, like, you're not like, you're not growing as you go. You're just being stagnant because you need your time with your friends. You need your own projects. You need this. And honestly, as RuPaul says, if you're never going to love yourself, how the hell is anyone going to love you? But also, like, you need to know how to be at peace in your own house on your couch and be okay with it. Because if you're not okay with that, you're not going to be okay when they go hang out with their friends one night and you're on the couch. Like, I feel like David's thing is he's also trying to mask MASK trauma, but also some triggers and some toxic tendencies that he has,
Very well put. Well, this episode gave us a lot, Triston.
Yes.
So many ASEAN, Greek, archetypal tropes that you've picked up on, and I love it all. So everyone out there needs to follow Triston. Triston, how can they follow you on social media?
I'm on Instagram at Triston P Pullen, and yeah.
Yeah, well, I loved you here. Oh, also Triston, sometime soon, we'll probably I'll be on there with you, Triston, hopefully, but hosted by Christian Garcia, the Smash Rewatch show, happening in the same synchronicity of our timeline here. Triston will be on that with his musical theater brain. So can't wait to see your thoughts on that show. Okay, well, thank you, Triston, and bye to everyone out there. Here's to episode 11. Let's see what happens. So you all know that I am such a fan of musical theater and classic movies. So I can't wait for you all to listen to one of my good friends' podcasts. It's called That Old Gay Classic Cinema, hosted by Christian Garcia. It's a podcast that looks at classic cinema films that we know and love. And he was inspired by Turner Classic Movies and The Great Movie Ride. Remember that amazing ride where the Wicked Witch of the West rose up in a burst of flame in Disney? That was one of my favorite rides. I'm so sad it closed. So while looking at classic films, Christian is so excited to look at it with a queer lens. And he brings on friends like myself to talk about all of these films. I was on the first episode when we discussed The Sound of Music. I've been on an episode of Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo. He just released an episode about the Philadelphia Story. He's done Meet Me in St. Louis, Sweet Charity, Psycho, Mary Poppins, Hello Dolly. He had on Down the Yellow Brick Road hosts and the Garland Gab hosts to talk about The Wizard of Oz. So make sure that you listen to That Old Gay Classic Cinema on Apple and Spotify and follow him on TikTok and Instagram at That Old Gay Classic Cinema. Okay, start watching the classic movies and make sure you listen to Christian's podcasts. LGBT stories are universal, but each one speaks to the individual heart and soul of the writer telling it. Do you have a story to tell? Or have you been moved by an LGBT book, film, painting, television show, or other form of media? Then the Gay and Lesbian Review wants to hear from you. The GNLR believes in bringing awareness to queer art and artists through reviews, commentary, and thought pieces in which the author relates their personal lives to a particular piece of art, a novel, a movie. In addition to the print magazine, the GNLR also publishes articles on its blog. So you can see all of this on glreview.org. That's GLREVIEW.org. Remember, you get 50% off your subscription of the GL Review magazine when you use the promo code ITBR50. That's 50% off your print or digital subscription when you use promo code ITBR50. To learn more about submitting an article for the GNLR, visit their writer's guidelines. The link is located at the bottom of their homepage. And if you have any questions, email Stephen Hemrick. That's STEPHEN.HEMRICK@glreview.org. The GNLR and its readers can't wait to see what you have to say.